The Bible Story in 16 Seas. Moses told Pharaoh to let God's people go, but Pharaoh said no. He hardened his heart and refused. Because of this, God began to send plagues against Pharaoh and the people of Egypt. The first plague turned the river Nile and all the water in Egypt into blood, so that there was no water to drink. But Pharaoh refused to let God's people go. Next, frogs started appearing from all the rivers and canals and pools. There were so many frogs that they covered everywhere. Pharaoh pleaded with Moses to take the frogs away, and he promised to let the people go. But once the frogs were gone, he changed his mind. Then God sent a plague of gnats to Egypt. Pharaoh agreed to let the people go, but when the gnats were gone, he changed his mind again. God brought plague after plague to Egypt. Every time he did, they never bothered the Israelites, just the Egyptians. God sent flies, caused the Egyptian animals to die, made people sick with boils, sent hailstorms, then swarms of locusts that ate everything in sight, and even darkness to cover the land. Pharaoh just would not listen. Again and again he hardened his heart. But the last and worst plague was still to come. Moses warned Pharaoh one final time that he had to let Israel go. He told Pharaoh that around midnight that very night, God would travel through the land of Egypt, and every firstborn son would be struck down and die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh to the firstborn of the slave girl. But Pharaoh still wouldn't listen. Then God gave Moses and Aaron these instructions to share with the people. Each man is to take a perfect male lamb for his family. He should kill the lamb, take its blood, and put it on the sides and tops of the door frames of your houses. I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn. But the blood will be a sign for you. When I see the blood on the door frames, I will pass over you. Moses told all these things to the Israelites, and they obeyed. At midnight, God brought the last plague to Egypt and struck down all the firstborn sons, including Pharaoh's. At last, he told Moses and all of God's people that they could leave Egypt and go. All over the land, the people of God hurried out of their homes as God led them out of Egypt. They headed into the wilderness towards the Red Sea and set up camp there. Over 1 million Israelites left Egypt, along with their sheep and cattle. It was a very big group. When Pharaoh was told that the Israelites had gone, he changed his mind again. He called his army together and took 600 chariots to chase after the Israelites. When the Israelites saw the Egyptians coming, they were afraid. But Moses told them not to be afraid, because they were about to see God's rescue. God created a pillar of cloud to stand between Israel and the Egyptians. Moses stretched his hand out over the sea, and a great wind blew. The water moved away so that the floor of the sea became dry land, and the people walked through the sea. When the Egyptian army saw what was happening, They tried to chase after the Israelites, but God clogged up the wheels of the chariots, and they could not move quickly through the path God had made. When God's people were safely on the other side, God told Moses to stretch his hand over the sea again. The water rushed back into its place, and all the Egyptians were drowned. God had saved Israel, just as he had promised. The people were filled with awe for God, and they celebrated and sang, safe on the other side. The Bible Story in 16 Cs.